The war did not end when the guns went silent. It only changed its clothes. On a cold April morning in 1945, as American tanks rolled through the broken spine of Germany, a young U.S. Army officer stood inside a ruined factory on the outskirts of Frankfurt and realized something that would quietly reshape the modern world. The factory was dead. The machines were intact. The people who once ran it were gone. To most soldiers, it was just another hollow victory, another symbol of destruction. But to Captain Daniel H. Carter, logistics officer, United States Army, it looked like an equation waiting to be solved. Steel presses that once stamped aircraft parts now sat idle. Warehouses designed to move thousands of tons of material each month were silent. Rail lines still connected the building to ports, cities, and borders. Labor could be replaced, machines repaired, capital redirected. What had been built for war could be reborn for profit. Carter was not a hero. He did not storm beaches or shoot enemy officers. He had never fired his weapon in anger. His battlefield was paper. Manifests, supply chains, tonnage calculations, delivery schedules measured in blood and minutes. During the war, he learned one brutal truth faster than most men learn to aim a rifle. Wars are not won by courage. They are won by logistics. Every bullet fired in Normandy had traveled thousands of miles. Every tank destroyed in the Ardennes represented factories, contracts, workers, steel quotas, and transportation networks. Behind every victory stood an invisible army of planners who turned chaos into flow. And flow, Carter realized, was everything. Before the war, he had been an accountant's son from Ohio, trained to think in columns and margins. Numbers had always made more sense to him than people. When the Army drafted him in 1941, it discovered a mind that could organize hell itself. By 1944, Carter was coordinating supplies for entire divisions, deciding, on paper, who would advance and who would wait, who would have fuel and who would stall in the mud. Men died when his numbers were wrong. Men lived when they were right. That weight never left him. When Germany fell, Carter was assigned to assess captured industrial assets. Officially, his job was to catalog and neutralize enemy production capacity. Unofficially, he was witnessing something no business school in America could have taught him: how a continent-sized war economy could be dismantled, reassembled, and redirected. The U.S. Army did not just defeat Germany, it studied it. Factories were measured, supply routes mapped, skilled workers identified, equipment tagged. What could not be shipped was documented. What could be reused was claimed. What could be sold later was quietly noted. Carter saw officers from Washington walk through ruins like investors touring distressed property. He understood then that the war had created something unprecedented in human history, a government that knew how to run the largest business operation on Earth. The Pentagon did not call it business, but that is what it was. By the time Carter returned to the United States in late 1946, America was drunk on victory and terrified of collapse. 12 million soldiers were coming home. Factories that had produced bombers and shells now needed customers. The government feared a return to the Great Depression more than it feared any enemy. The question was simple and terrifying. What happens to a war machine when the war ends? The answer would define the next century. Carter took a job no one else wanted, working inside a newly formed federal office tasked with converting military supply contracts into civilian production. The paperwork was endless. The politics were brutal. Generals fought with businessmen. Congress fought with everyone. But behind closed doors, something extraordinary was happening. Army officers were sitting across tables from corporate executives, explaining in precise detail how to scale production, control costs, manage risk, and dominate markets. Because war had already taught them. The companies that listened survived. The ones that didn't disappeared. Carter watched small contractors balloon into national giants almost overnight. He saw government guarantees turn risky ventures into sure bets. He saw how fear of communism, of another war, of economic collapse could open the federal wallet wider than any free market ever could. This was not capitalism as Adam Smith imagined it. This was capitalism with a uniform. In 1948, Carter made his move. He left government service quietly, with no headlines and no farewell ceremony. Within 6 months, he and 2 former Army engineers incorporated a logistics consulting firm in Delaware. Their pitch was simple and devastatingly effective. We don't guess. We already ran the largest supply operation in history. Their first clients were defense contractors desperate to survive peacetime. Carter showed them how to win government contracts, how to speak the Pentagon's language, how to turn compliance into competitive advantage. He knew the system because he had helped build it. The Cold War made them rich. Every new threat justified new spending. Korea, Berlin, nuclear weapons, missiles. Each crisis expanded the same supply networks Carter understood better than almost anyone alive. His firm did not manufacture weapons, it managed the arteries that fed them. Invisible, indispensable, untouchable. By the mid-1950s, Carter's company was handling logistics planning for corporations whose names would later sit on the Fortune 500. He never appeared in advertisements, he never testified before Congress, but his fingerprints were everywhere, in shipping lanes, procurement models, factory layouts, cost-plus contracts that guaranteed profit regardless of performance. The military-industrial complex was not born in a single moment. It grew quietly from men like Carter, who learned in war what peace would never teach, that war is the most efficient business school ever invented. And America, victorious and afraid, decided to keep the classroom open. This is not the story of a conspiracy. It is the story of incentives. It is the story of how soldiers became executives, how battlefields became balance sheets, and how the United States learned to turn permanent preparation for war into permanent economic growth. The war ended, the business never did, and Daniel H. Carter was only the beginning. If you want, I'll continue part 2 immediately, same tone, deeper, darker, bigger. Or I can slightly adjust the pacing and style to match YouTube narration, documentary, or novel format.